The Night Portugal Rose Again, Ronaldo and the 2019 UEFA Nations League. When Portugal entered the 2019 UEFA Nations League finals, many observers treated the competition as an experimental tournament that still needed historical significance. Yet inside the Portuguese camp, the mindset was far from casual. Hosting the final stage on home soil transformed the event into something deeply symbolic, because it offered Cristiano Ronaldo another opportunity to stand before his nation, not merely as a superstar, but as a leader responsible for continuing a legacy that began with the unforgettable Euro 2016 triumph. At 34 years old, he was no longer the explosive winger who sprinted endlessly down the flanks, but he had evolved into a forward whose intelligence, positioning, and calculated movement made him even more dangerous inside decisive moments. The semi-final against Switzerland would quickly become the perfect platform for that transformation. From the opening whistle, Ronaldo's body language revealed focus rather than nostalgia, as if he intended to remind Europe that longevity in football belongs only to those who adapt relentlessly. His first goal arrived from a free kick struck with precision and quiet authority, bending past the defensive wall and settling into the net in a manner that felt inevitable rather than fortunate. Although Switzerland responded with an equalizing penalty that momentarily unsettled the rhythm of the match, the Portuguese captain remained composed, understanding that tournaments are often defined by patience rather than panic. As the stadium lights reflected across the pitch in Porto, the stage was set not merely for qualification, but for a performance that would reaffirm why Ronaldo's presence still shaped the destiny of his national team. As the match advanced into its final stages, tension thickened across the stadium, because semifinals rarely forgive hesitation, and a single lapse in concentration can erase months of preparation. Ronaldo, however, has built his career upon responding to precisely such moments, transforming pressure into clarity rather than fear. His second goal illustrated that instinct perfectly, as he drifted intelligently between defenders before finishing decisively inside the penalty area, demonstrating how anticipation and spatial awareness can dismantle organized defenses. That strike shifted momentum visibly, igniting the Portuguese crowd and forcing Switzerland to stretch forward in search of an equalizer. What followed was the defining act of the evening. With minutes remaining and fatigue beginning to influence decision-making across the pitch, Ronaldo completed his hat trick with a low, controlled drive that traveled through defensive legs and nestled confidently into the far corner. The eruption inside the stadium was not simply celebration, it was recognition of mastery sustained across eras. At an age when many forwards transition into supporting roles, he had once again taken ownership of a semifinal and personally carried his nation into the final. Analysts quickly emphasized statistics and longevity, but those inside the dressing room understood that such moments were rooted in discipline invisible to spectators, including relentless physical preparation and an unwavering refusal to accept decline as inevitable. The hat trick was not merely a highlight, it was a declaration that leadership sometimes manifests through decisive action rather than speeches. The final against the Netherlands unfolded with a different rhythm, demanding control rather than spectacle. Dutch organization limited open space and required Portugal to balance ambition with patience, understanding that forcing opportunities could invite costly counterattacks. Although Ronaldo did not score in the final itself, his influence remained central as defenders adjusted constantly to his positioning, thereby creating corridors that teammates could exploit. His movement away from the ball shaped the structure of the contest in subtle yet significant ways, reflecting a maturity that extended beyond individual statistics. The breakthrough eventually arrived through Gonçalo Guedes, whose strike, after a swift attacking transition, pierced the Dutch defense and shifted the psychological balance of the match. Ronaldo's reaction revealed composure rather than ego, because he immediately encouraged defensive organization and concentration, ensuring that emotional momentum did not erode tactical discipline. Throughout the remaining minutes, he coordinated pressing movements and reinforced communication across the pitch, acting simultaneously as forward and field general. When the final whistle sounded and confirmed Portugal's 1-0 victory, the celebration carried layers of meaning. This was not merely another trophy. It validated that Portugal's success in 2016 was not an isolated miracle, but part of an evolving era sustained by leadership and belief. As confetti descended and the silver trophy reflected stadium lights across Lisbon's night sky, Ronaldo's expression embodied fulfillment rather than relief, because the Nations League triumph reinforced continuity within a career defined by adaptation. Winning on home soil added emotional resonance, transforming the tournament from experimental competition into historic milestone. For younger teammates, the victory symbolized confidence in a generational transition, while for veteran supporters, it confirmed that the identity forged in 2016 remained intact and resilient. Ronaldo's semi-final hat-trick will forever define the narrative of that campaign, yet the broader significance of the tournament lies in how he balanced brilliance with responsibility. He no longer relied exclusively on explosive dribbling or relentless sprinting, but instead embraced calculated positioning, disciplined energy management, and strategic leadership that maximized collective performance. In doing so, he demonstrated that greatness is not static, but adaptive, evolving in response to time rather than resisting it blindly. The 2019 Nations League thus became more than a trophy. It became evidence that longevity at the highest level requires transformation. On that June night, Portugal lifted their second major international crown, and at the center stood a captain who once again illuminated the stage without demanding it revolve solely around him. His presence reassured teammates, energized supporters, and reminded the football world that sustained excellence emerges not from nostalgia, but from continuous reinvention. In celebrating the trophy, Portugal celebrated stability, while Ronaldo quietly reinforced a truth that has followed him throughout his career. When responsibility calls, he answers with action.